Welcome to AI TV News. Today we unpack the headline, Department of Transportation Chief Threatens to Fire Air Traffic Controllers Who Skip Work. America's air travel system is already under strain, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's warning has turned up the heat. On Thursday, he told air traffic controllers that if they miss work during the government shutdown, they could be fired. The threat comes as airports struggle with thousands of delays, a sign of a system near its breaking point. How did we get here? It starts with the federal shutdown that began on October 1st after Congress failed to pass a spending bill. Roughly 13,000 air traffic controllers are classified as essential, meaning they must keep working but won't be paid until the shutdown ends. They will receive a partial check for hours worked before October 1st, but if the stalemate drags on, their full October 28th paycheck disappears. Understandably, sick calls are up. Since Monday, October 6th, more than 15,000 flights have been delayed nationwide. The Federal Aviation Administration says 53% of delays now stemmed from staffing shortages, up from just 5% before the shutdown. Major hubs like Chicago, Nashville, and Denver have felt the pinch, and Hollywood Burbank Airport in California had to close its tower for nearly 6 hours when no controllers were available. To maintain safety with fewer people, the Federal Aviation Administration slows traffic, triggering a ripple of delays coast to coast. But these cracks existed long before the shutdown. The United States is short about 3,500 controllers. Many were already working mandatory 6-day weeks and 10-hour shifts. Hiring and training have now halted, compounding a problem that will linger for years. Against this backdrop, Secretary Duffy labeled a small subset of controllers as problem children and estimated that about 10% are lashing out by staying home. He said, if we have staff that aren't dedicated like we need, we're going to let them go, while calling the majority who do show up patriots. A Department of Transportation spokesperson later said his comments were aimed only at rare bad actors. The Controllers Union, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, is walking a tightrope.
It warns members that organized sickouts are illegal and could cost them their jobs. Yet it publicly urges unwavering professionalism. In response to Duffy's threat, the union reminded members that existing procedures already address misuse of sick leave. On the ground, or rather in the tower, the pressure feels different. One veteran controller told Forbes the workload, now coupled with no pay, is untenable. He predicts sick calls will continue, not as protest, but because some controllers are simply not fit for duty under this stress. Even Secretary Duffy conceded the point. When controllers worry about mortgages, they can't focus solely on keeping airspace safe. The showdown is unfolding in a charged political arena. The Trump administration blames Democrats for the shutdown. In a highly unusual move, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem ordered a video to play at Transportation Security Administration checkpoints nationwide, telling travelers that Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government, which is why Transportation Security Administration staff are working without pay. So what does all this mean? The threat to fire controllers is a flashpoint in a much larger story. A critical safety system that was understaffed and overworked long before politics cut its paychecks. The shutdown has pushed it to the edge. Sit calls and marathon delays aren't just statistics. They're byproducts of policy decisions made hundreds of miles from the runways they affect. Until Congress restores funding, or the administration finds another path, controllers will keep guiding planes without pay, passengers will keep waiting at gates, and officials will keep trading blame. The question is whether America's air traffic system can keep absorbing the strain. That's the story behind today's headline.
Are your taxes going up in 2026? As 2025 winds down, that's the question on millions of minds. The short answer, for most Americans, no. And the reason is a mix of last-minute legislation and the IRS's routine inflation adjustments. First, the big save. Back in 2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, better known as the TCJA, cut income tax rates, doubled the standard deduction, and boosted the child tax credit. But many of those perks were set to expire on December 31, 2025, snapping rates back to pre-2018 levels. Without action, the 12% bracket would have jumped to 15%, the 22% bracket to 25%. The standard deduction would have been sliced almost in half, and the child tax credit would have fallen from $2,000 to $1,000. Analysts estimated that more than 60% of households would see a tax hike. Enter the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, passed in July 2025. It locked almost all of the TCJA's individual tax cuts into permanent law. By keeping today's lower tax rates and larger deductions, the bill blocked the automatic increases that had been looming for 2026. Now to the IRS's annual inflation tweaks, the quieter but equally important side of the story. Each fall, the agency nudges income thresholds, deductions, and credits higher, so ordinary pay raises don't push people into higher brackets. For the 2026 tax year, those adjustments look like this. Standard deduction, up to $16,100 for single filers and $32,200 for married couples filing jointly. Income tax brackets. The rates stay the same, but the thresholds rise. A married couple will pay 12% on income up to roughly $100,800 before the 22% bracket kicks in. The top 37% rate now starts at about $768,000. The new law also tagged on a few extras. Estate tax exclusion climbs to $15 million per person, meaning more family wealth can pass to heirs tax-free. A $6,000 senior deduction debuts for taxpayers aged 65 and up, easing the bite on retirees, especially those whose Social Security benefits are taxable. And beginning with the 2025 tax year, tipped workers will no longer owe federal income tax on their tips. Not every break survived, though. 3 popular provisions sunset after 2025. Clean energy credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, including the home solar incentive, disappear. Miscellaneous itemized deductions for unreimbursed employee expenses, investment fees, and tax prep costs are gone. Personal and dependency exemptions are eliminated. Higher standard deductions and a larger child tax credit will offset the loss for many families, but not all. So where does that leave you? If you're a typical wage earner, your 2026 federal tax bill should look a lot like 2025, maybe even a little lower, thanks to wider brackets and a bigger standard deduction. High-income households benefit from a significantly larger estate exemption. Seniors get a brand new deduction, and service industry workers keep more of their tips. The main group that could pay more are homeowners and investors who relied on expiring clean energy credits or miscellaneous deductions. Bottom line, the feared tax cliff of 2026 never materialized. Congress kept the TCJA's lower rates alive, and the IRS's inflation adjustments will shield more of your income. Still, individual situations vary, so consider running the numbers or talking with a tax professional before the calendar flips. That's the latest on what 2026 holds for your taxes.
In a world often filled with grim environmental news,
Today, we have a story of hope. This is the story of how the green turtle has bounced back from the brink of extinction, a major win for conservation. Today, at the World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, delivered the welcome news. The green turtle's global status on the red list of threatened species has been officially downgraded from endangered to least concern. This change comes after decades of work resulted in the global population increasing by an estimated 28% since the 1970s. As IUCN Director General Dr. Grethel Aguilar stated, the recovery reminds us that conservation works when we act with determination and unity. To understand the scale of this achievement, we have to look back at how dire the situation was. The green turtle is one of the largest sea turtles, growing up to 4 feet long and weighing up to 400 pounds. They are named not for their shells, but for the greenish color of their body fat. For centuries, this very fat, along with their meat and eggs, made them a target. They were hunted relentlessly for turtle soup, and their eggs were harvested as a delicacy. The threat was so severe that by the 1970s, biologists feared they might disappear completely. In 1978, the species was officially listed as endangered. The turnaround was not quick, nor was it simple. It is the result of over 50 years of tireless work by hundreds of thousands of people around the globe. The strategy was multifaceted. It involved protecting nesting sites by patrolling beaches to guard females and their eggs from poachers. It involved safeguarding critical habitats like the seagrass beds where they feed and the dark, obstacle-free beaches they need to nest. A major breakthrough was reducing bycatch, the accidental capture of turtles in fishing gear. The implementation of turtle excluder devices, essentially a trap door in fishing nets that allows turtles to escape, has saved countless lives. At the same time, international treaties and national laws were put in place, making it illegal to hunt or trade green turtles. And public awareness campaigns helped reduce the demand for turtle products, building community support for their protection. However, this success story has its complexities. The recovery is not uniform across the planet.
The IUCN assesses different populations separately. While populations in places like Hawaii and the South Atlantic are doing well, others in the East Pacific and Central South Pacific are still considered vulnerable or even endangered. And even with the rebound, the total number of green turtles today is still far below what it was before large-scale hunting began. This means the work is far from over. The species is now considered conservation dependent. The threat of bycatch, though reduced, remains a primary concern. Coastal development and pollution continue to degrade their habitats, and new challenges are emerging. Climate change is a significant threat, with rising sea levels eroding nesting beaches. Warm sand temperatures can also skew the sex ratio of hatchlings, as temperature determines whether a turtle is born male or female. And in our oceans, plastic debris remains a constant danger through entanglement and ingestion. The green turtle's comeback is a crucial ray of hope, especially when viewed in the context of the wider IUCN update released today. The same report brought difficult news for other species. 3 types of Arctic seals, including the hooded, bearded, and harp seals, are now closer to extinction due to the rapid loss of sea ice. The report also found that more than half of the world's bird species are in decline, a sharp increase from just a few years ago, largely due to habitat loss from agriculture and logging. The IUCN Red List now includes over 172,000 species, with more than 48,000 of them threatened with extinction. Against this sobering backdrop, the green turtle's journey from the edge of extinction serves as a powerful blueprint. It proves that with sustained, coordinated, and global effort, we can turn the tide. It is a hard-won victory that shows what is possible when we decide to act together for the future of our planet.